got this job just so I could torture brats like you, my counselor said. He had no idea I was there undercover. I'm a Child Protective Services investigator, and I'm 22, but I look 15. When a wilderness therapy camp had 3 kids hospitalized and 1 death in 2 years, my supervisor asked if I'd go undercover as a troubled teen. I said yes, and they sent me in wired with a team monitoring from a van a mile away. The van dropped me off at base camp in the middle of nowhere, and a man built like a refrigerator immediately got in my face. I'm Rick. I'm not your friend, I'm not your therapist, and I'm definitely not your daddy. You're here because you're broken, and I'm here to fix you or watch you fail. He dumped my bag on the ground and threw everything in the trash. Out here you earn everything. Water, food, sleep. You earn it or you don't get it. I met the other kids that night. A girl named Becca whispered, "Don't talk back to Rick, ever, no matter what." A boy named Caleb hadn't spoken in 4 days. A 13-year-old named Mason was so skinny I could see his ribs. I asked when he last ate, and he said, 2 days ago. I didn't hike fast enough, so I didn't earn dinner. The first week was brutal. 12-hour hikes with barely any water. If you fell behind, Rick screamed until you cried. If you cried, he made you carry rocks as punishment. He called Mason worthless. So many times the kid started introducing himself that way. One night, Becca collapsed, and Rick stood over her saying, "You know what we do with dead weight? We leave it for the coyotes." I had to get enough evidence, but every day it got harder. Then Rick focused on me. "You think you're tough? I've broken girls twice as tough as you. I've made kids beg to go home to parents who don't even want them. You're nothing." That night, Caleb told me about Danielle. She tried to run away, got sick, and they wouldn't take her to a hospital. She died out here. Rick said it was her fault for being weak. I needed Rick to say it himself. The next morning, Mason couldn't get up. He was shaking with fever. Rick walked over and kicked him in the ribs. "Get up!" Mason sobbed. "Please, I'm really sick." Rick grabbed him by the throat and lifted him off the ground. Mason's feet were dangling. His face was turning purple. You know what I told the last kid who said that? Walk it off. When she couldn't walk, crawl. When she couldn't crawl, I let nature take its course. That's what these rich parents pay me for. He threw Mason into the dirt and picked up a thick tree branch. "Maybe you need some motivation." He raised it over his head. I couldn't wait anymore. I stepped between them and caught the branch mid-swing. Rick's eyes went wide. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" I ripped the branch out of his hands and threw it aside. "I'm ending this." I pulled open my jacket and showed him the wire. "I'm Investigator Marcos with the Department of Child Services. Everything you've done for the past 9 days has been recorded and transmitted to federal agents." Rick laughed. "Nice try. You think I'm stupid? You're just another brat trying to get out of here." I smiled at him. "Really? Then why is there a helicopter coming?" His face changed when he heard it. He looked up at the sky, then back at me, then at the other kids who were all staring. No, this is entrapment. This isn't legal. You kicked a 13-year-old boy in the ribs. You choked him until he turned purple. You told me you let a girl die, and I quote, "Dead kids don't talk." That's not entrapment, Rick. That's a confession. The helicopter landed and federal agents poured out. Rick tried to run. He made it about 10 feet before 2 agents tackled him face first into the dirt. They wrenched his arms behind his back and cuffed him while he screamed that this wasn't fair, that these kids were liars, that he was just doing his job. Becca stood up slowly, then Caleb, then Mason, still shaking, but on his feet. They all walked over and stood in a circle, looking down at Rick in the dirt. Becca spoke first. "You told me nobody would ever believe me." Caleb spoke for the first time in days. "You told me my parents gave up on me." Mason's voice was barely a whisper. "You told me I was worthless." I crouched down next to Rick so he could see my face. "You told me you were God out here, that nobody would ask questions, that the parents trust you and dead kids don't talk." I leaned closer. "Turns out this kid talks plenty, and you're not God anymore. You're just a man who's about to find out what happens when someone bigger than you decides you need to be broken." They dragged him to the helicopter screaming. Every kid watched him go. Mason grabbed my hand and squeezed it so hard I thought he'd break my fingers. "Thank you," he whispered. "Thank you, thank you, thank you." Rick got 25 years. The camp was shut down permanently. All 6 kids went home to their families, and I testified at every single hearing.